I didn't realize how much I was abandoning my inner knowing. And I didn't know what that connection, I didn't know it existed. And so I just want to share the story because I feel like through sharing the story, someone who's feeling like they're performing or off in life or, doing all the societal shoulds and still feeling like this ain't it. Just that spark of inspiration to remember like how ridiculously magical you are.
This is A Joyful Rebellion, the podcast that explores that moment you realize the life and success you worked so hard to create didn't come with all the fulfillment you thought it would. I'm your host, James Walters, and I want you to be the author of your own story. Each week, I connect with people who inspire bold answers to the question, what do I do now to create a life I love? If you're ready to start answering that question for yourself, you're in the right place. So let's start a joyful rebellion. Becca Eve Young spent nearly 20 years doing everything right. The career, the MBA, the corner office with kombucha on tap. Then, in the span of about a year, she lost it all. Her marriage, her job, her dad. She ended up alone in a one-room hut in rural Mexico with nowhere to go. What happened in that desert became a book called It's Gonna Get Messy. And in this conversation, we talk about why the mess is actually where the connection lives, why your gut has been right all along, and what it takes to stop performing a life that was never really yours. Becca Eve Young, thank you so much for being here on A Joyful Rebellion today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You wrote a book, and I love the title because it is so darn true, and it kind of sets the expectation at a realistic place. But the title of your book is It's Gonna Get Messy. And I think that's where this discussion's going to go, because so often on this show, I'm talking to people who have been through some stuff. And there's that saying out there, you take your mess and you make it your message. And everyone's been through stuff. Some of us are doing a good job of pretending it wasn't as bad as it was, maybe.
Yeah.
And I am guilty of just sort of glossing over, oh yeah, there was this, all this traumatic stuff that happened, but we came out on the other side and it's cool now. But today we're going to talk about the parts that get messy, because so often, if I'm talking to someone and you've heard that story or you've heard that cliche that like overnight success takes 10 years of like grind and the grueling stuff and all the things you have to go through. But we see so many people on the outside and we're like, oh yeah, they got it together. And do any of us really have it together?
No.
Let's talk about that. Let's just jump right in. So thank you for being here. We're going to get messy.
I love it. Yes. That's my kind of chat, because I can't tell you how many titles I had for the book and how many edits I had for the book. And it took, I think 6, it's my first book, but 6 or 7 passes where I had to get really honest with myself, because I was doing what so many of us do, is preserving the look from the outside. And I got it all together and I don't want to share the mess. And I wrote it, and even like my best friends were like, let us read the draft. And I was terrified. I didn't even want my best friends to read it. And they're like, Becca, you do realize if you publish that people will read it. And I'm like, details. But once I had to go through all those drafts and I fully own my mess, I part in where I'm at in life and my learnings and quote unquote ugly parts. And the beautiful thing has been, even some of my dearest people are like, yeah, me too. Me too 1,000 times over. And how could I not know you were going through all that? And it was just the most beautiful reminder that the mess is what connects us, because no one is spared the mess. And actually, the mess is where the beautiful connections happen. That's where we feel less alone in the human experience. So not to be cliche, but the mess is the magic.
And it does take people a while. It took me a while. I know some of my friends, some of my family, it took them a while to either become aware of their mess or to mature to a point where you can acknowledge it without feeling the shame. And I don't know how you grew up Much of this show is about the things, the way you were trained as you were growing up, the messages you got. It's funny, as I talk to people who grew up in different parts of the U.S., maybe they were out west where things are a little looser. I grew up in the South, a lot of Baptists around here. No shade to Baptists, but man, you talk about shame. You talk about, oh, okay, you woke up late. Well, that's a moral failing, or you don't have everything together. The joke is you can tell certain people because some will say hello to you in the liquor store and the rest will pretend none of us are here. And none of us are at the liquor store. We're just going to forget about this. And because there is an element of shame, and there's a certain point in people's lives, and for some it comes much earlier, where they decide that the shame's just not worth losing out on connection and being real with yourself. Talk a little bit about, when was it that you realized that was the case?
Man, I mean, I feel like anything, it's a whole series of moments. I think we all experience this, where age does bring wisdom. There's no no shortcut in that. I do have some friends in their teens that have learned these lessons, earlier than I have. For most of us, we don't realize is the societal script that's playing in the background of our life constantly. That societal script and programming that, like, apparently 8 billion of us just popped into the planet and signed up for, of it's constant, right? You don't make enough, you're not pretty enough, your house isn't big enough, your car isn't the right thing, you don't look the right way, you don't present a certain way. Many of us are always like trying to attain that next thing, that next moment. I think it takes age and a certain point where you realize, okay, this is not following the societal script, is not making me happy. And I did all the things, I had the home, the marriage, I continued to climb the corporate ladder, I got the MBA, I'm flying to New York doing branding for Calvin Klein, I've got the office with the kombucha on tap and the ping pong on the roof, and taking a company public for $5 billion and all the things. And it was just like all of that sort of collapsed for me within a year, along with my dad dying. And it takes, like, a lot of us sometimes, like, for all that stuff, the mess to just get so massive and everything just to sort of collapse for you to say, wake up, like, wake up. It took following that script for nearly 20 years to say, this is just not it. And it's that accumulation of all those moments. Then all of a sudden you just realize, I have to stop what I'm doing. This is not bringing fulfillment. And even though I was told this would bring me fulfillment, I need to rewrite the script.
Exactly. And that's what we talk about so much around here, is rewriting that script, and also that rebellion that happens when you realize something has to change. And to get there, you have to go against pretty much all the things you have learned from others for so long that you took to be the truth. And these people most of them want the best for you. So they tell you the things they think will make you happy and successful. And then you get there and you're like, oh, this is hollow. This feels a little weird. Or this is somebody else's success. Like, I did a really good job of making that person proud, and now I need to go make me proud. What was the story? What were you looking at? Where were you driving, even when it occurred to you, like, wow, I've really got a mess here that I haven't been acknowledging, and now I need to start dancing with it instead of against it?
For me, the universe gave me a lovely little timeout. I'm not sure I would have done it on my own as early as it happened, but I was doing the things, climbing the corporate ladder, what I thought was success. Marriage is collapsing, like I said, lost a dear friend to suicide, work's imploding, dad's dying, and I was working remotely. My company had me on a 6-month assignment down in Mexico, and I was supposed to go back April 1st of 2020. And we know how that plays out. So they laid off half the company, like 3,000 people, myself included, and I was in a little rural town in Mexico, literally a dirt road town with nothing but a 5-shelf supermarket, with a few things, some tortillas and whatnot. And the border shut down, flights stopped. I had driven down from Portland. Everything that I owned was in the storage pod. So there was nothing to drive back to. And this was like hazmat suit time, where they're like, everyone's dying, don't move, don't drive, don't do anything. And so I'm in this little 1-bedroom palapa in rural Mexico, And I had to quarantine there for 4 months on my own. And I had never lived alone in my entire adult life. It has always been college roommates or right into my marriage or with friends. And I'm just sitting alone in the middle of the desert with literally like a one bedroom, like a tiny, tiny sink, a little college fridge. And that's like about it. Going from corporate downtown office, my perfect kitchen with the Wolf stove and the Samsung washer and dryer that sung to me when they were done, the car, the lattes, the matcha cold brews. And when all of that fell away, and all of it was silence, and I'm sitting there alone in the desert, I could finally hear myself. Like I could finally hear my own voice because we're constantly numbing through busy schedules, Netflix, bottles of wine, the next trip. We're not ever listening, consuming our own voice. It's all this other outside narrative. In that moment, turn the TV off. I stopped listening to the media. I started meditating, getting deeply connected with nature and natural light instead of being under the fluorescent lights, And all that time, people are handing me like little guides in life. Like someone hands me A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle and Power of Now, all the key initiation manuals. Here you go. And I'm just like, oh, I've been doing it wrong, you know?
What was it that you saw in those books that really raised that flag for you, how you've been doing it wrong? Because I love to talk with people who realized that there was a point in their life where they just came to that understanding that there was a movie being filmed and they're the main character and they have just been acting the script. They didn't have any part in writing the script. They've just been acting it out, and then they want to try on being a writer instead of just an actor for a little while. What was that like for you, and what did you see in those books that brought that to the surface?
The funny thing about those books is that they brought up what I had forgotten because I was raised, so I'm from Wisconsin, raised so very, like conservative Midwest. We don't shake the boat. We're nice. We don't talk about the feelings. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. But I was raised a Christian Scientist, not to be confused with Scientology. Christian Scientists, they do believe in the Bible, but they have science and health as like an ancillary book that goes with it. And I never saw a doctor. So I wasn't allowed to see a doctor my entire childhood. Christian Scientists believe at the core of everything that you are, they would say, like God's perfect child. And if you remember your true essence, then you're not going to be sick. And so instead of going to a doctor, you go to a practitioner and you pray. You pray to know your true essence, that the body isn't real, that you aren't material. And if you know that, you won't be sick. And that's a lot to ask of a 6-year-old. I'm like, did Buddha get there?
Yeah.
Did he make it? I remember being in Sunday school very clearly, and I'm 6 years old, and I'm listening, and I'm like, okay, if the bodies aren't real, and I'm not allowed to see a doctor, then why am I brushing my teeth at night?
Yeah. And just to keep the tooth fairy happy, right?
Just the tooth fairy. And like I could see the Sunday school teacher just go like, shut down. And then it was just like, Rebecca, keep reading. And I was like, oh.
You knew you hit a nerve. Okay.
I was like, ooh. And kidding aside from that moment on, I was like, this is a web of lies. I'm like, this is a web of lies. They're lying to me. I'm not safe here. So I just performed like so many of us do. And I'm going to be the perfect Sunday school. I'll wear my dresses and I'll get bubblegum ice cream afterwards. But I'm like, the jig is up, guys. And I know you're full of it.
Yeah. Wow. At 6.
Yeah, at 6. And so I pretended my whole life. And my dad was always trying to convert me. Like even until the day he passed, he's just like, read Science and Help and sending me Christian Science monitors. And there's always been a spiritual side there. I loved Alchemist, of course, and Celestine Prophecy. And I loved whimsical books like that taught us to think about bigger things than our own reality. So as those books came back into my life and as my dad's dying, it was just like that little like, hey, and I was coming back, that curiosity and that knowing. And And it started to like crack something back open in me. And I think it was just preparing me because my dad passed away September of 2020. And I was finishing those books and we'd been conversing on, life and mortality and nature and existence and all of the things. Mexico had a way of like opening you up to those things, sound baths and meditation retreats and breath work. And all those things were coming into my life all at once. And 30 days after my dad passed away, I'm under the full moon. And I really asked with my entire being, I'm like, Dad, if you're out there, I'm like, show me. And he came on the beach. He came, my eyes were closed, and I felt a hand brush across my forehead, as real as any hand I've ever felt. I felt it again, almost like tuck my hair, and I was about to open my eyes and be like, why is the facilitator touching me right now? Like, what do you do? And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, and there was no mistaking that hand. And what happened next is there's really no earthly explanation for, but I was out of my body and I was where we all come from. And I was with him. And he was light and I was light. And we were dancing. And I'm just like, Dad, I'm like, is this what we are? And he spoke right back to me into my mind. He's like, yes. He's like, aren't we beautiful? He's like, I'm so happy. He's like, I'm home. And I'm like, oh my God. A million questions passed through my mind. I'm like, can I stay? Was the only thing I thought to ask. And in that moment, I'm right back into my body, except I could feel myself come back in. Go from that just over the veil, so close. It's right there. And I felt myself come back in, which when you're born, you don't know. But I was from there back into my body and I could feel myself come back in. I'm like, this is so heavy. And I'm like, what, what? And my ears are ringing and people are around the circle. I'm bawling and I'm like, and I come back. And in that moment, everything of my knowledge of life and why we're here and what the purpose is and all of that shifted in a single second. And
where do you go from there? Yeah, that sounds a little overwhelming. And then you might be thinking, okay, now what do I do?
Yeah, because that's a lot where the title came from. It's going to get messy because I think I say in the book, I just, landed back on Earth and I meditated on a mountain and I single-handedly raised the consciousness of the planet. No. This is where it takes me a while to grasp what I've been shown and kind of like how reality cracked open for me in that moment. It gets really messy for a bit. I don't care about banks. I don't care about systems. Get drunk and crash my car. Like, I don't want to do this. I want to go back. I'm like, I would like to go back, but it resets, everything with a whole new lens. And yeah, it gets really, really messy. But then it's learning to like, okay, how do you live with that knowledge? How do you embody what we're here to do? How do you help others remember? How do you help lift other people up? How do you help other people shine? How do you help other people really soak in the magic that is this existence? If you've ever really looked at a flower, at a bumblebee, hippopotamuses, if you really look what this creation is, it's insanely gorgeous. The purpose of being here is so insanely beautifully simple. Those systems and those things of success sort of fell away. Not that we don't, fortunately we also need fiat currency and, to deal with the systems and all the things, but it's bringing that presence and that knowing back into how we show up here and how we live in our dream and how we love and care and connect. What success is really all about.
When you had that experience, it sounds like you were one person the day before that experience and you were a different person the day after. What did you decide you were going to do to take the first step to moving away from the person you had been for a while and moving into who you wanted to be from there on? What was the first couple of steps and how did you decide what the first couple of steps were going to be?
It's been a process. So like that time frame, like the book is like 2019 to 2022. And I journey through what comes after. But It wasn't clear right away. And there was a lot of forgetting. Like I recorded myself after the moment. I'm like, I'm never going to forget this. Like I'm going to live every day in this way. But sometimes the earthly experience is a little dense, a little heavy. And, we forget by design. What I knew in my heart to be true, the next step was just like, how do I continually remember and connect to that? Not let that slip away. And it was a lot of meditation. It was a lot of psychedelics that I judged. I was very like corporate, buttoned up with my heels, ponytail back, glasses, no nonsense. Very, very, I don't even know, Ann Taylor Loft. You know what I'm saying? So it was just remembering, and it was getting back into gratitude. It was psychedelics to get my mindset. Cause like once going over that veil and coming back, there was still like all the programming still there. And it doesn't just evaporate in a moment. All that was still in my hard drive and still in my software. And so I needed to do a little reprogramming. So psychedelics had a big part in that, just reconnecting to that energy so that I could like fully bring that into my body, meditation, silent meditation retreats, those types of things. And it was a slow process, but it's just little by little remembering how to connect to like your intuition, which is that internal compass that we all have. That's the spark that all connects us to that side. Ever seen a body of anyone that's passed away? You look at it and you're like, that's not that person. And it's undeniable. Like that spark, that energy, that thing is gone. And that is the spark of our eternal existence, our soul. And that never dies, and goes on to infinite adventures after this earthly one that we're all having here together. And so it's remembering that, it was shedding the programming, and it was realizing, becoming conscious of all the ways that I was fulfilling a societal script but not listening to my intuition. And I had to reprogram a lot of that, where you're people pleasing, you're performing, you're in fear, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy. All those things still existed for me. It wasn't like, poof, I am enlightened and
Yeah.
all shall be well. No, not at all. I had to do a lot of conscious work on that. And I would say the biggest things that helped, it's oddly simple. People that would like to present you with a 100-page framework, good on them. But no, it's meditation, it's connecting within, it's silence, it's stillness, it's nature, it's journaling, and it's really remembering to hear your own voice. Because the thing that has a lot of us off course is all of us trying to like stand on stage and read one script for one character when we're all unique characters with our own unique stories and our own unique plays. And the more we step into that and stop performing for what we think we should, the more that we shine, the more that we remember, the more that we resonate, the more that we feel joy, the more that we stop feeling like, why am I trying to put on this character's outfit when that is not my role?
It's definitely been, for me, interesting to see different people's take on that journey. And it's like you said, it's simple things that you're doing. They're not easy things. They're not easy to remember, especially if you've been going down one track your entire life, to maybe stop and say, okay, I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to do some breath work, or I'm going to sit back and I'm going to journal about this and reflect and see where that gets me. All very simple things, not always easy to try to figure out how to fit into your life, but worth doing. And one thing I love talking about is perspective, because with a book title like It's Gonna Get Messy, I know people who could take that one of a couple of different ways. And some people, if I would say something like, well, it's going to get messy, they'd be like, oh, don't be such a downer. Like, you're manifesting that it's going to be hard to do this. And I'm like, no. I'm setting up the expectation that it's probably going to get messy. I don't want it to be messy, but you know what? Even if it is, I'm going to learn a lot. And I'm going to come out on the other side with some new skills. I'm going to come out with some new appreciation for how things can be simple. But right now, I want to be honest with myself and just prepare myself that this might be simple, but it might not be easy. And in that, it's going to feel a little awkward. It's going to feel a little messy. So let's just embrace it. So what's been the reaction for you from people who have seen the book title, haven't read it yet, and they want to know more of what it's about, and they come at you and it's like, what? Why does it have to be messy? Let's talk about that first.
Well, it's true, because like, think about it. You're like 8 years old. Clean up your room.
Yeah.
You're so messy. And it's like, we're told so many times that how often in life and education are we taught to celebrate the mess? The learning. You get a D on a paper and it's like, shame on you, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're grounded and there's no Nintendo for you and no Mario. You're like, what? It's like, think about it. We're terrified to fault. We're
Mm.
terrified to falter. We're terrified to like not be perfect. The mess is it's not celebrated, you know? Like if you spill something, oh my God, clean it up right away. And like you're panicked, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I spilled. There's so much fear around mess. But that is like sort of the whole point. Like, if we could all have a bit of like compassion and forgiveness for ourselves, because like that is the point of being human. So we've been told like the very act of being human is messy, like in all the ways. Physically, mentally, emotionally, everything is messy. We're messy beings. We've been told to deny our own reality by avoiding the mess. So people are like, oh, it's gonna get messy. What's it like? They're all like, I love the title, you know, tell me more. And I'm like, no, I want to share my own mess because I've definitely had people be like, oh, you really put it all out there. And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, why not? Why not? Because if I help one other person on their journey feel less alone in the mess of being human and like, you know, saying, yeah, I've messed up, I've not been perfect, and just sharing that in a way where I add a lot of humor to it, and I add a lot of one-on-one conversation because what has been amazing, like, it's like so many people that have been like, me too, and I'm like, well, why didn't you say anything? Because like, oh, I'm scared to not be perfect, and so I just I share it because I want people to like exactly like what you said, like embrace the mess, be proud of it, be like, yeah, I really fucked this up, and be like, oh my God, congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations. What did you learn through that? Think of how much more we would venture and explore and create if we weren't so fearful of the mess. And we really celebrated mess for each other. Could you imagine?
And didn't just say, yeah, I hope we get through this as quickly as possible. And yes, mess doesn't always feel great. It feels awkward. It
Yeah.
requires difficult conversations, and everyone gets to go through some of it in their life. Now, how much they want to engage with it is the big difference. You know, I've been
Yeah.
in times of my life where I just want to run as quickly as possible or get through it as fast as possible, but not really get into the mess of it. And sometimes you come through those and you check the thing off the list, but you didn't really learn anything and you didn't grow.
Yeah.
So as the universe dictates, you're going to have to go through that again at some point until you learn your lesson.
Yeah.
When it came
Yeah.
to writing this book, a lot of times I've talked with authors who write the book that they most need to read themselves. And it's usually because of something that they have gotten through themselves, lived experience, and they have grown. They've come out the other side wiser, and they want to share that information with people. So I'm curious if someone's listening right now and they think, oh, this might be the book for me. This might be the version of the books that you were reading back in 2020 that got you inspired to change things as they
Yeah.
were. If someone is listening and they're like, is this book right for me? What would you describe as the kind of life of a person who could benefit from this?
I mean, I think that's very true, right? Like, we definitely write for the past version of ourselves. For me, this wasn't a goal. Like, literally, I'm in the car and a voice is clear as day. It's like, write the book. And I literally just like, I'm like, Dad?
Yeah.
It was not on my list to do. And for me it was deeply cathartic and healing. But I really did write it. I was like, okay, look, if I'm gonna do this, it took 3 years and a lot of iterations and a lot of overcoming my own fear of like putting my story out there. I'm like, I just want to help like, any other person that feels like they're performing and living by these societal scripts and is feeling lost in their own life and is searching for something more. That really is the heart of it because I didn't realize how much I was performing. I didn't realize how much I was abandoning my, inner knowing. And I didn't know what that connection I didn't know it existed. So I just want to share the story because I feel like through sharing the story for someone who's feeling like they're performing or off in life or, doing all the societal shoulds and still feeling like this ain't it, just that spark of inspiration to remember like how ridiculously magical you are. Magical and human and messy and eternal and all of the things. I just know a moment in the book where I realize how much of this has been written before I wrote it. Kind of a soul agreement with Dad, if you will, because Dad was a writer and he was a struggling writer and wrote a lot of like Alan Watts-esque things that got rejected in the 70s and 80s. And so it's kind of a co-creation with Dad too. And it's to give people inspiration to live in that way because he tried to live in that way and was shamed in a lot of ways, like a lot of rejection for bringing up spirituality in that angle. I just want to help ignite that spark in other people, really, at the end of the day.
For the people that you've talked to who found a lot of impact in the book, what are some themes that come up when they say, oh my gosh, Becca, this was really something that got me thinking? What is it that people have in common with what tends to be an aha moment for them in the book?
Funny enough, I was just at an event last night and people were like, I'm listening to it on Audible. Like, I'm with you, I'm laughing, like, I'm crying. I can't watch this in public because I'm just like, I'm having full on breakdowns, but like, and also laughing aloud. And I'm like, aw, that's so sweet. The funny thing, and this is definitely a little bit of human ego, I thought the dad moment would be the moment. I was like, oh my God, you guys, this happened. And then, poof, so many people have said, you gave me an opportunity to pause. You gave me an opportunity to feel less alone, and you are really making me think about my life and how I'm living and what I need to do to change that to live more authentically and how I really want to live versus the way I've been. It gets me emotional versus like how I've been performing, for parents or spouses or society and the things. That's been the thing that seems to be the thread, the commonality. I got like an email the other week from a woman in London who's like, I quit my job. Like, it doesn't all have to be that dramatic. It can just be like you meditate for 5 minutes. You don't have to travel anywhere, move countries or anything like that. But she's just like, I've been thinking about this for forever and I'm not following what my intuition is telling me. And I've been fearful and I just need to trust because that inner knowing, that inner compass that's been pulling me, like it never steers you wrong. It's just having the courage to follow it. And like she wrote that she did, and I was like, oh my God, like this is the best. This is the best. Like helping someone else follow that spark is magic. It's just magic.
It does sound magical. It does. And going back to the word mess or messy, it's kind of a sliding scale for everyone because someone might have a pretty simplified life. They may not have very many coworkers. They may not have very many friends or family. And what a mess looks like for them is going to be wildly different from someone who is kind of enmeshed in a really big extended family. Maybe they still live in the same town as they grew up in. And so there are all of those people who knew them way back when, have those generational kind of expectations of them. And they've got a much more, I won't say complex, but there are just a lot of facets to their life, which in turn means their mess looks different. When it comes to mess and people describing what to them is their mess that they have to deal with, what are some things that have in common, but what are some things that are wildly different where one person is like, oh yeah, you got to hear this, and then they give you the story and you're like, oh, that doesn't sound quite as bad as the one I heard last week. What are some of the extremes, but what's common about what people kind of identify as their own mess?
Yeah. Oh man, that's all over the board, right? I've had like tanking $1 million company, like multi-bazillion dollar companies, to cheating on spouses, to financial ruin, to just people not like showing up in their marriage the way that they would like, or healing relationship with a mom or a dad. It runs the gamut. But the interesting thing is I have friends that have read it that are from the small town I grew up in, Wisconsin, that have stayed there, that haven't left, that have built their families and have a very, like you said, a very complex network there of life. But like, it's interesting that I haven't thought about this before. Regardless of the size of the mess, the root cause of that mess for all of it, I don't mean to oversimplify this, but people ignoring their intuition. The co-founder that like tanks the company, and it's like all along the founder was thinking, man, this isn't aligned. But he's got all this knowledge in this certain sector, and I've got this, and I need this person, or this isn't gonna, it's not gonna work. But like the intuition was always just kind of whispering, this isn't maybe the best relationship. And to the one who has like a strained relationship with their sister, it's like, man, we went through this trauma as kids. All along, like there's this tension and they're not getting along and their families don't see each other and all the things, but it's just like their intuition was saying like, just reach out to her. So regardless of the mess, like really small, tiny conflict to huge financial ruin, it really does run the gamut, but it always comes down to like that inner knowing, that little inner voice, that little interconnected wisdom that we all have was ignored. I love, it's almost something like energetic that happens when someone shares their mess, because there's a resonance that happens. Like when someone performs, someone gets up and like, hi, I'm Rebecca and I've written this thing. You're just like, okay, hello? Like there's a resonance to the mess. And when someone shares it, I swear like there's a mirror that happens that reflects back to you your own beautiful creation. And you're just like, yeah, that was the goal. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna put it all out there so that like other people feel more called to put it out there. And we stop pretending that it's shameful. And we gotta sweep it under the rug and move on and nobody look, nobody look, nobody look. Because that's how everyone reacts.
Yeah, because it may be something that they've allowed to get bigger and bigger without addressing. And listening to you talk about it and also kind of comparing notes with my own experiences, I'm curious if you've had a conversation with people who've read the book and then went on to face their own mess and start working through their own messes. Sometimes you build it up to be way more complicated. I love the Stoic quotes. There's a Stoic quote that says, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And I've had the experience where I had a mess that I kind of ignored, kind of put on the back burner because it seemed like it was going to get really messy if I addressed it. If I stood up and took responsibility for, okay, I'm going to work through this mess. But when I started actually taking action, it was like, oh, that wasn't that messy after all. It was messy up in my mind. And then when I really started dealing with it, really started doing the things, taking action, it's like, oh, this is no big deal, actually. And now I've moved through that mess and I've learned that I can move through other messes. What's some of the things that you've had people where they came to a similar realization?
I'm fully with you. That happens all the time. And that's the kind of what I was talking about when coming back and having like that programming. There's just that fear. And we all have innate monkey mind, meat suit programming that we all come in with that served us well for quite a while. Like biologically, like keep us safe from, like lions, tigers, and bears. And you're not safe. And you need to run, you need to find shelter. So much of our mind is still in that programming, like, okay, if you do that thing, you're not gonna be safe, it's not gonna be okay. And it's like, thank you so much for your concern. This isn't a life or death situation. Like actually having a conversation, like, I'm gonna be okay if I do the thing. That's where pause is so important, because when you realize that mind is at the helm and just breathing through that and saying like, you are safe to take action. Every person that I've talked to, myself included, who has stepped through fear, I mean, think about it, you're on the high dive as a kid and you're like looking over and you're just like, oh my God, I just can't. And you do it, you're just like, then you do it 1,000 times. It's no different. The thing is, I found that the more that we allow ourselves to like stay in like the rumination of fear and the mess and the avoidance, the more that builds, as you know, the tsunami, the mountain builds. And I think most people that I've talked to that have moved through that mess, I've coached people through that mess. That's a lot of what I do now. It's so funny. It's human connection. It's naming the mess, and it's like allowing someone to help. Like, I need help getting through this. You can't read the label from inside the jar. We're in there, we're ruminating this, and you just need someone to like open the lid and be like, you just let me give you a hand. Naming it and taking the action. It's so hard because we'll sit and ruminate forever in our own minds. But if you just talk to a dear friend or have a coach or a guide or a group or whatever, and you name it, it's like that little thread, and then you're just like, okay, it's safe. Like, it's okay to do this and it's okay to move. But I feel like the more people sit in their own mind, in their own space, and they don't ask for help, they don't ask for guidance, they don't share it, that rumination just like sits. But when you have someone that's, like, you got this, James, like,
Yeah.
do the thing,
Yeah.
say the thing, and then you say it and you're like, okay, it wasn't so bad. It wasn't so bad. So asking for help, having a safe space to like chat that through and to have someone encourage you. Because the more that you sit in your mind and you allow that to run the show, the bigger it's gonna get. You know.
Oh yeah, what comes up for me when you were describing that, the visual that comes up for me is like I could see myself being in my car, and somehow when I got in the car, there's a fly buzzing around, and so he goes up to the window. He's trying to get out because he sees daylight, but there's this invisible barrier, and then I roll down the window so the fly can go out, and the fly is like an inch under the glass, just kind of beating himself right up against the thing, and if he just went an inch up, he would escape to the outdoors. But I'm watching him just lose its mind trying to get out, and I'm trying to help it get out. And that takes me back to wondering, when people kind of identify their own mess, the theme I'm hearing here is something we talk about a lot, awareness of the mess. Most people, I feel like, are aware of their mess, whatever it is, if it's a financial mess, if it's a relationship mess. Then when it comes to working through and confronting that mess, that sounds like an accountability theme. It's like, okay, the only person that's going to be able to do anything about this is me. Is not going to magically resolve itself. So it sounds like some awareness, then some accountability has to take place. And then based on what you were just saying, there's a lot of vulnerability that has to go in with either asking for help so that you can see what you don't see, or if it is a relational mess you have to deal with, you have to go to that person with basically like what you're hoping to get out of it. And one thing I've always noticed, I think most people come to this understanding later in life, is different people have different results because they do different things. They actually spend their time differently. I might look at someone successful and say, oh, they got so lucky. Or I might look at someone who's just like got all the muscles, they're jacked and they're really in shape, and I could say, oh, they probably have great genetics. But the truth is, I'm over here eating chips and salsa and they're at the gym lifting heavy. They're doing a different activity, so they're going to have different results. Have there been any aha moments that people come to you and they're like, Becca, I've been approaching this and I've been kind of like that fly, just beat myself against the glass. And when I read this chapter, I was like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah. Oh God. First of all, I love the fly in the glass, right? Because you're just like, bro, you're so close.
Yeah.
And we've tried to like cup and like, just come on. It's so true. Like, you're no different than the fly. Like, when you're in it, you really just need someone to like, hey, let me just scooch you through. We're all very aware of the mess. We're all very afraid to share it. Even some of my dearest friends are like, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't know, I wasn't there for you. Like, I feel bad. Like, you were there and you didn't tell me. Yeah, but I wasn't telling anybody. I wasn't reaching out, but sometimes in the mess we don't, right? Like, we're just like, I just can't right now. I just can't. And I do want help, and I will. But like, we also berate ourselves over that, right? Like, there's so much that happens for the butterfly in the cocoon, and we ask for help when we're ready to ask for help. But I think the biggest themes have been just reflection of like, I share a lot about my marriage, relationships, conflicts that were happening, where I share specific instances looking back on it where I'm like, this is where my friend, I realized I was doing this, but I was ignoring what was in front of me, and this is what it looks like, and this is what it feels like, and this is how you're doing that. So having people pause and say, yeah, okay, I can see where that thing, that mess, I'm, sweeping under the rug when I should be addressing it. And here's, by the way, the repercussions for my particular story when I ignore that and where that goes and where the learnings are. It's just helping people kind of hone into that like frequency of like, okay, you can ignore it. And a lot of us, unfortunately, part of the human experience is you ignore it until it just blows up and you have no choice but to address it. But that's okay too. Here's the thing, like we do all this like, sharing and getting out of the mess, but like sometimes life has its way of having its perfect magic timing and synchronous and rhythm, and sometimes it just takes that, sometimes it just takes that. And so uh I'm sure we all hear, like you're exactly where you're supposed to be. There's truth to that too. What I have experienced though is the people that appear, like we do the comparison and the thief of joy and all of that, but the people that are further along, I think, are faster at recognizing the loops and the patterns, right? So what took me 15 years to exit a marriage, I can now see the loop, see the pattern, and the more that you heal and you are aware of it, the faster the loop is. So it's like now within moments, within 24 hours, something that would make me spiral off the edge of the earth, I can see in real time now what's happening, the loop, recognize it and say, okay, not today, and move through that loop faster. The thing is, you can wait until it blows up, but the more that you're vulnerable, the more that you find the safe space to share, the more that all of us collectively share the mess, we're less ashamed. The shame leaves and the expansion happens. And then we all evolve faster, and then we all get connected to love faster, and then we all expand, and then we all are able to live in that space where there isn't that shame. And mess is just a one rung below shame in terms of the the emotional, guilt tripping chart.
I'll go back to the weight analogy because, as much of a cliche as it is, I think cliches are with us for a reason because they are useful in learning. But the cliche I go back to here is the fact that when you do lift weights, you get stronger. And it's not really because you lifted the weights, because you broke down your muscles had to repair itself, they had to come back stronger. So it's like the weight doesn't get any lighter, it's that the person lifting it gets stronger. And once you've decided in your life to address whatever mess it is, it could be a little mess, just start with the little one. And say, okay, I haven't reconciled my bank account in 10 years. Okay, go reconcile this month's. And maybe then you've got a little more insight into that part of that mess in your life, and then you feel an accomplishment. Have you found people you talk to, when they do choose to start addressing the messes in their life, and they start to actually embrace the fact that it's okay if it gets messy? When something really big comes up, they're like, oh yeah, that was no big deal. Whereas the year before, they would have been like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I have to deal with this. And what may have been a 5 hours of stressing out is now 5 minutes of, oh yeah, okay, I'll make 2 phone calls and they're done. Have you seen that come up time and again?
Oh, I love that. I love that. Like we'll have to practice mess reps.
Yeah, mess reps, what they are. 10 reps.
I need to do 10 mess reps. Right? Because it's so true. Like it's a muscle like anything else. And yeah, I mean, I've seen that in my own existence. I've seen it with clients as well, where they're just like, yeah, the thing, you nailed it on like the small little thing, the very small little thing. Back when it was 2020 and I was like trying to like ground myself and like just the utter whiplash of like everything falling apart. I'm in the middle of the desert. Everything that I know from like career, life, marriage, home, country, like is gone. And I'm like, where do I begin? And I kid you not, small little acts like that of trust, of having the glass of water in the morning, taking care of your hydration. If you know that you're chugging soda and you should do better, like just the one glass of water, like thank you for the glass of water. Thank you for taking care of you. Little reps like that. You're like, oh, I need to meditate, or oh, I need to go to the gym. We all hear it, but it's so true. Like, meditate for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 seconds. And every time you do that little rep of trust, every time you say no to the invitation that you know you don't want to go to the thing, you know you don't want to be there, you know
Yeah.
they don't light you up, you know the conversation's super mundane and we talk about stuff that has no substance, it's surface level, you're over it. And you just say, oh, thank you so much. Love you all, but no.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go do this. Every time someone does that, every time you say no to the relationship or the date or the person that's not texting you back or not showing your worth or not investing in the same way, it's not like you don't take it personally to say thank you and no. Like
Mm.
it's just not a fit for me. It doesn't mean it's something personal. But every time someone does that, the trust in yourself grows because we don't realize as we spend our entire life abandoning ourselves
Mm.
for the religion that we're raised in, that we're told we should do, the looks, the societal achievement. There's never a time, have you ever been told, like, congratulations, you're enough?
Yeah.
You're enough. You're just like, I'm never enough, according to all this. Every time you do those little mess reps, every time you do the like your intuition reps and you build that up, compounds. Because if I look back, read the book now, I had to like re-listen to a little bit of it in the audiobook and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, oh girl. It's so painful, but it's so beautiful just to look back at that and say, wow, the things that would activate me, the things that I allowed, the way that I abandoned, every time you choose yourself in little micro moments, it compounds and you look back and you're like, that doesn't upset me, that doesn't throw me off. I'm choosing myself. I'm following my own inner wisdom, and it absolutely compounds. It's then you look back and you're like, wow, those cycles, those learnings are quicker and quicker, and you're growing and growing, and it's such a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing to witness.
It's fun to see it happen in your own life. I bet it's even more fun to see it happen in other people's life because maybe you sparked something in them that they read your book and they saw what you went through and they did feel that connection exactly the way you were hoping to create it with your story and you being vulnerable. So thank you for doing that. I'm sure it feels amazing when people contact you and tell you what it is about your effort that helped their lives.
Truly nothing makes me happier. Like nothing. Like yes, sharing my story, but it's like when someone messages me back and says I impacted their life or I made them think more broadly or I helped them connect to like their spiritual side or that essence of them or like the beauty of this, like it just makes me happier than to light someone else up, like to make them feel that spark and connection. It's awesome. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
And help set them on that path in that direction if they choose, or at
Yeah.
least show them the way. And I'm on your website right now. It's beccaeveyoung.com. And if someone wants to go there, is that the best way to connect with you, get the book, all the
Yeah.
things?
Yeah. I've got a link to Amazon there on all the things, the paperback, the Kindle, and the Audible.
All right.
You can hear me cry on Audible and laugh
Okay.
and all the things. I do coaching there as well. So just helping people connect to that inner intuition, embrace their mess, and like however that shows up in their work and their life and relationships. And helping a lot of conscious entrepreneurs. I help a lot of people where I was 5 years ago, like hop out of the corporate
Mm.
grind and build something that feels purposeful and fulfilling. And the thing that you keep thinking about that you're like, I want to step into my purpose. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do it. But that's the best spot. Yeah.
All right. That's fantastic. Is there anything that we didn't talk about you feel like we should cover, or anything you want to say to the folks who are listening?
I don't think so. Although I'm curious though for you, like, is there anything through our conversation that came up about for you, like your life messes?
Something tied in for me, and it was really validating. And I kind of had this hunch a few years ago, and it's what I was mentioning about people who have different results, they do different things. And a
Yeah.
lot of those people will, and I'm included, and I've stumbled through this. You know, some of the mess is figuring out how to have some structure in my life. I used to think that I didn't really care for structure at all, and it turns out I do care for structure in certain ways. So I had to fumble through that, figure it out for myself. But you mentioned a lot of the the basics, like the meditation, journaling, going into a little bit of intentional self exploration. And those things, if you set them up as a habit, if you set some of those up as a system, I've found myself that it is really helpful. But I've also, in talking with people, they're like, oh yeah, that'd be cool, but I don't think I would get anything out of it. So just not allowing yourself to dismiss something, and again, try little things, but try some of the basics. And again, cliches are that way because sometimes there's some truth behind it. Maybe not for everyone, but then the fundamentals are fundamental because a lot of times they work if you use them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing. Because it's so true. I think now we're so overwhelmed with so many things, social, AI, everything. Like the amount of content is insane. Like people with ADHD and all the overwhelm and the functional freeze and like, I have this thing I need to do, but I just like, I'm just gonna, it's a lot. And the fundamentals and just like having like an accountability buddy and someone to be there for you. We overcomplicate things, and there's a reason why Buddha and so many teachings are like, yeah, no, it's very simple if you just pause and connect to those things. So I'm with you there. And I guess I would say to any people listening, it's just trust your intuition. You know what you need to do. You know what lights you up, and like just that guidance system. We're so taught to look like outside of ourselves for the way, but yet we have the guidance system within. So just have that courage to pause and listen. And truly, if I can help anyone on their journey, like nothing makes me happier than helping someone else shine. So feel free to connect, and I'm happy to help in any way that I can.
Well, Becca, thank you so much for being here. This was fun to talk about, and wish you much success on getting your book and getting your ideas out there.
Oh, thank you so much. It was lovely to chat with you. I enjoyed it too.
Thanks for joining me today. If something in this episode stirred something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Screenshot it and tag me, or DM me on the socials, send smoke signals, whatever works. I want to know what you're plotting. This show isn't just about listening. It's about building something real together. So I hope to hear from you soon, and I'll be right here next week when you're ready to keep the rebellion going.